Elara Whitmore had always lived in a world where perfection was expected, where every smile had to dazzle and every word had to impress. Born into one of the wealthiest families in the country, she was the golden heiress, groomed to inherit the vast Whitmore legacy. Her life seemed flawless, an endless stream of luxurious parties, designer dresses, and whispered promises of love. But perfection, she was about to learn, was nothing more than a fragile mask. It was her engagement party, a glittering affair held in the Whitmore mansion's grand ballroom. Crystal chandeliers hung overhead like frozen stars, and the murmur of high society conversations filled the air. Elara floated through the crowd with a practiced smile, her fiancé, say Damien Carrington, by her side. To the world, they were the perfect couple, hands intertwined, eyes locked, a picture of happiness. But behind the laughter and clinking glasses, a secret conversation awaited her, one that would shatter her world. As she moved past a corner of the room, she heard Damien's voice, dripping with arrogance, talking with her closest friends. "She has no idea what's coming," Damien sneered. "All that wealth, all that influence, she's just a pawn. By the time we're done, it'll all be ours, and she'll have nothing but a pretty story to tell." Elara's chest tightened, disbelief freezing her in place. Her friends laughed along, their faces familiar yet suddenly alien, betraying her trust with casual cruelty. The people she had confided in, the ones she believed loved her, were mocking her behind her back. Every memory of loyalty now felt like a lie, every smile a carefully crafted deception. Her heart pounded, the room spinning around her. Shame, anger, and heartbreak collided in a storm she could barely comprehend. She felt trapped in a life that wasn't hers, suffocating under the weight of betrayal. Tears pricked her eyes, but she refused to let them fall in front of them. She turned, fleeing the ballroom, her heels echoing against the marble floors as the cold night air hit her cheeks on the balcony. She wrapped her arms around herself, shivering, not from the chill but from the sting of realization. She had been naive, blinded by love and trust, but beneath the hurt, something else began to take root. A fierce determination, a quiet vow that she would not let this break her. Later that night, when her father confronted Damien and her treacherous friends, he offered no consolation, only a stark ultimatum: leave, disappear from the life you once knew, and find your own way. And so, with a small bag and a heart heavy with grief, Elara stepped into the unknown, leaving behind the glittering world that had betrayed her. Betrayed, humiliated, yet unbroken, she whispered to herself, "I will rise. I will reclaim what is mine, and they will regret underestimating me." Elara's life after the Whitmore mansion was quiet, almost painfully ordinary. Gone were the sparkling chandeliers, the designer gowns, and the whispered flattery of sycophantic friends. Now, her world consisted of a modest apartment with peeling wallpaper, the faint hum of the city outside her window, and the relentless grind of odd jobs to make ends meet. She walked through her days like a shadow of her former self, blending into anonymity, her pride bruised but unbroken. It was on a particularly gray Thursday evening, with rain streaking the sidewalks and chilling her to the bone, that fate intervened. She was hurrying along a crowded street, trying to shield herself with a flimsy umbrella, when she collided with a stranger. He was tall, impeccably dressed, with an aura of calm authority that made her step back instinctively. A flash of amber eyes met hers, and for a moment the world slowed. "I'm so sorry," she stammered, brushing raindrops from her coat. "No, it's my fault," he replied, his voice smooth, controlled, and disarmingly gentle. "You look like you could use a warm drink, and maybe a little distraction from this weather." Something in his tone, a mixture of kindness and quiet confidence, drew her in despite herself. She hesitated for a heartbeat, then nodded. Together, they ducked into a nearby cafe, escaping the downpour. Over steaming mugs of coffee, Elara found herself talking more than she intended, revealing glimpses of her resilience and wit without ever mentioning her past. The stranger listened, genuinely interested, his presence comforting in a way that felt strangely familiar yet entirely foreign. His name was Lucian Blackwood, and while Elara knew nothing of his world, there was a sense of power behind his calm demeanor. Every movement, every word, hinted at influence, wealth, and a life that existed far beyond the confines of her modest apartment. There was no arrogance in him, only a quiet, magnetic authority that made her heart race and her mind sharpen. Over the next few weeks, they met with surprising frequency, their encounters seemingly coincidental yet perfectly timed. Lucian was patient, observant, never probing too deeply, yet she sensed he understood more than he let on. Slowly, trust began to weave itself between them, fragile yet undeniable. Then, in a twist that seemed almost like destiny, he proposed marriage. Elara's mind reeled. To marry a man she barely knew, yet beneath the shock, she recognized an opportunity, not for comfort or convenience, but for rebirth. She accepted, her heart pounding, a quiet fire of determination burning inside her. This stranger, this billionaire, had unknowingly handed her a new beginning, and with it, a chance to reclaim her strength, her dignity, and perhaps the sweet taste of revenge. Life with Lucian Blackwood was intoxicating, yet it carried a weight Elara hadn't anticipated. She moved from her modest apartment into a world of opulent mansions, sleek private jets, and art collections that seemed to whisper secrets of power and influence. Every corner of his life radiated wealth, but beneath the luxury, she sensed something else: calculated precision, a subtle web of strategy that reminded her of the very people who had betrayed her. Unlike her naive fiancé and false friends, Lucian's power was quiet, steady, and undeniable. Though he treated her with warmth and respect, there were moments when Elara caught glimpses of his private world, a network of contacts, investigations, and influence that spanned continents. One evening, in the library of his sprawling estate, surrounded by walls of leather, bound books, Lucian handed her a folder. Its contents were explosive, documents exposing Damien Carrington's latest fraudulent venture, proof of his manipulation and greed, the kind that could ruin him completely. Elara's breath caught. She had imagined revenge countless times in her darkest nights, yet here it was laid before her, precise, legal, and irreversible. Lucian's gaze met hers, calm yet piercing. "I've known about your past, Elara, not because someone told me, but because I've been watching Damien Carrington for a long time. He isn't just arrogant, he's dangerous to those who trust him blindly." Shock and awe mingled in her chest. This man, whom she had barely begun to know, understood her pain and her desire for justice. She realized that she wasn't just a companion in his world, she was a partner in something far greater. Her betrayal had not gone unnoticed, and now she had the tools to reclaim not just her dignity, but her power. "I want revenge," she whispered, her voice trembling yet fierce. "I want them to regret every cruel word, every laugh at my expense. I want to show them I am not someone to be underestimated." Lucian smiled, a faint curve that carried both amusement and admiration. "Revenge," he said, "is sweetest when it is strategic. It must be precise, elegant, and undeniable. Hasty actions only expose weakness. You are no longer powerless, Elara. You are a force they never saw coming." For the first time since the betrayal, she felt a surge of confidence. No longer a victim, she was a woman reborn intelligent, resourceful, and unyielding. Together, she and Lucian began to craft a plan, subtle yet devastating, designed to dismantle Damien's schemes and expose his arrogance. Every smile, every calculated move, every whispered secret would serve as a step toward her ultimate victory. That night, as the fire crackled in the grand hearth, Elara made a vow, not just to punish those who had wronged her, but to ensure that the world saw her strength, her brilliance, and her resilience. She was no longer the betrayed heiress, she was a storm ready to rise. The day had arrived, cloaked in a sky streaked with storm clouds, as though nature itself heralded justice. Elara stood at the edge of the balcony in Lucian's estate, her silhouette framed against the restless city below. Months of planning, patience, and quiet preparation had led to this moment. Every whisper of betrayal, every cruel laugh, every scar on her heart had been carefully woven into a tapestry of precision and power. Today, Damien Carrington would understand the meaning of true consequence. It began with the press, carefully released evidence, proof of Damien's fraudulent business dealings, manipulative schemes, and betrayal of partners, hit every major news outlet at once. Headlines screamed of corruption, scandal, and deceit, leaving Damien scrambling, exposed, and helpless. Social media erupted with outrage, while boardrooms that once welcomed him now turned cold. Those who had mocked Elara or aligned with him felt the tremor of downfall ripple through their lives as well. Elara watched from afar, her heart steady but alight with satisfaction. She felt no gloating cruelty in her triumph, only the profound sweetness of justice. She remembered the night she had fled her engagement party, humiliated, heartbroken, and alone. Now she was no longer the frightened heiress. She was a woman transformed, her dignity restored, her intellect and resilience undeniable, and Damien, he was broken. Once arrogant and untouchable, he faced public disgrace and financial ruin. He had underestimated her, as everyone had, believing that her past naivety defined her. Yet, it was precisely that underestimation that allowed her to craft a victory so meticulous, so flawless, that he had no escape. Every move she had made, every alliance she had cultivated with Lucian, had been a lesson in patience, cunning, and strategy. Lucian approached quietly, his presence calm and grounding. He didn't need to speak. The pride in his eyes reflected what Elara already felt. They had not only toppled a man who had caused her immense pain, but they had done so without losing themselves in petty spite. Their revenge was artful, surgical, and undeniably satisfying. Later, as the storm outside softened into a gentle drizzle, Elara returned to her family estate, not as a humbled girl, but as a woman who had claimed her power. Her father, initially skeptical of her resolve, met her with awe and newfound respect. She realized then that revenge was not merely about punishment. It was about reclaiming one's life, dignity, and voice. Elara Whitmore had been betrayed, shamed, and abandoned, but she had emerged stronger, wiser, and unstoppable. The world had witnessed her transformation, and she knew this truth above all. She would never again be underestimated, mocked, or silenced. And in that knowledge, she found a freedom more precious than any inheritance, a freedom forged from resilience, courage, and the sweet, enduring triumph of justice.